pretty quick here. Okay. Thank you for joining us for today's Courthouse Industry Day. We will begin in just a few moments after everybody gets into the Zoom room here. So thanks very much. Thanks again for joining us for today's Courthouse Industry Day. We will begin in just a few moments. We still have some people getting into the Zoom room. All right, and with that, we are going to get started. Welcome to the Clackamas County Courthouse Industry Day Zoom session. The purpose of today's session is for private parties who are interested in bidding on the Clackamas County Courthouse replacement project to learn more about it and ask any questions about the project. I'm Dylan Blaylock with Clackamas County's Public and Government Affairs Department, and I'll be coordinating the public comments for today's meeting. Joining us today are County Chair Tootie Smith, County Administrator Gary Schmidt, Presiding Judge of the Clackamas County Circuit Court, Kathy Steele, and County Courthouse Manager, Gary Barth. My thanks to all of you for being here. Today's session is pretty straightforward. We will hear a little bit about the project from each of our panelists and then turn it over to attendees for questions. That Q&A will start sometime around 10:40 or 10:45, and I will prompt you then to raise hands with your questions. We will end by 11:30 a.m. This video is being recorded. If your Zoom handle does not properly identify you, please rename yourself now and do so. And with that, we are going to go ahead and get started. So first up, I will turn it over to Clackamas County Chair Tootie Smith.
Well, good morning all, and thank you for joining us. I'm Chair of Clackamas County Commission, Tootie Smith. This is a vital project to Clackamas County, and we have a broad range of support from Clackamas County to the state of Oregon. But first off, I'm going to provide you with some information from our perspective, from the county perspective. On May 20th of this year, my fellow county commissioners and I authorized the use of a competitive proposal process to obtain a public-private partnership for this high-quality project. It's also a very high priority. The board's action made it possible for a request for qualifications, RFQ, to be posted in order to help us find and secure a qualified project company. We did not arrive at the decision lightly. The board and the county did its due diligence beforehand. As a matter of fact, this has been in discussion for 4 years at least. Before our final approval of the P3, I directed county staff to conduct extensive analysis of alternative approaches. We ultimately determined the P3 to be the most streamlined, cost-effective, fiscally responsible, low-risk plan. And I'm emphasizing low risk and cost-effective. Prior to that, the board retained a financial consultant to perform a comprehensive value for money analysis to understand the financial and risk allocation aspects of a P3. The P3 is simply the most efficient and affordable plan, and it won't raise taxes. The right private partner will help us ensure that this project will stand the test of time and serve the legal needs of the county residents for decades to come. I tell you all this to make it perfectly clear that getting a new courthouse built by 2025 is a major priority for the county and the state of Oregon. The new county courthouse will meet projected county needs for the next 50 years and comply with specifications outlined by the Oregon Judicial Department. The county is fully prepared and committed to completing this project in an efficient and timely manner for the benefit of the more than 400,000 county residents. Our preparations. Clackamas County has proactively taken steps to prepare for the construction of a new courthouse on our Red Soils campus in Oregon City. First of all, we own the land. which is very helpful. Our approved Red Soils Campus master plan includes a new courthouse building. We have also proactively installed utility infrastructure for the new courthouse. The county has also retained 3 separate firms to assist in the development and the management of the procurement process. Clackamas County also has an interest in incorporating cross-laminated timber or mass timber into the design of the courthouse. We also have widespread support for the courthouse. And the supporters include the state of Oregon, the Oregon legislature, which includes the bipartisan Clackamas County Caucus, the Association of Oregon Counties, the Oregon Department of Human Services, Clackamas County Bar Association, Clackamas County District Attorney, Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, and City of Oregon City, among others. And also the Clackamas County Circuit Court System, as you see with Judge Kathy Steele in attendance. Chief among these supporters is the Oregon legislature, which just approved the funding plan for this project. County Administrator Gary Schmidt will share more information on that in just a moment. But as your county chair, I greatly appreciate the interest you all have in this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Smith. Next up, we will go ahead and hear from Clackamas County Administrator Gary Schmidt. Gary?
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Chair Smith. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your interest in the Clackamas County Courthouse project. Like Clackamas County, the Oregon legislature views the building of a new county courthouse as a high priority. This project has bipartisan support in our Oregon state legislature. In June, state legislators approved the county's requested $94.5 million in matching bond funds. That amount represents the state's 50% contribution of funds toward the estimated $189 million project. Clackamas County joins a growing number of other regional agencies to successfully use a public-private partnership delivery approach, or P3. For example, the city of Lake Oswego, also located in Clackamas County, in coordination with the city of Portland, is currently using a P3 approach to design, build, finance, and operate and maintain a new wastewater treatment facility. Lake Oswego and Portland followed the same process that we are outlining here for the new Clackamas County Courthouse after determining a P3 approach provides the greatest value for all parties involved. How this will work: the P3 procurement process provides a much more streamlined approach. Under a P3 process, the county will enter into a single contract with the project company, which is then responsible for fulfilling the project agreement with the county by designing and building the project on time and on budget. Ahead of time and under budget also would be much appreciated. The project company will secure the funding necessary, and the county will pay back that funding over a period of 30 years. Once the courthouse is constructed, the private partner will have maintenance, upkeep, janitorial, and other responsibilities to keep the project standard over that 30-year timeline. The county will maintain ownership of the new courthouse building at all times and will assure a co-location of state services that makes the project eligible for a 50-50 state match. Maintaining the courthouse is built into the plan for 30 years and does not put this facility in competition with other county facilities for ongoing maintenance. All court-related operations will be under the control of the state of Oregon, as they currently are, with the existing Clackamas County Courthouse. The state does not contribute to the ongoing maintenance, but will benefit from the certainty that the contractual commitment provides. There are multiple benefits of a P3 model that our county commissioners use to make this decision to follow a P3 process. I will not go into detail, but quickly they are cost certainty, private innovation, the life cycle of cost optimization, and the rights to a P3 agreement. And we can go into more details if you have questions about those. I want to share that since 2018, Clackamas County has received a AAA rating from Moody's Investor Services for its full faith and credit and refunding obligations. A AAA rated bond has an exceptional degree of credit worthiness, because the issuer can readily meet its financial commitments. AAA is Moody's top credit rating and reflects well on Clackamas County's responsible and prudent financial leadership over these many years. Again, thank you so much for your interest in the Clackamas County Courthouse project and for attending today's webinar. Back to you, Dylan.
Thank you very much, County Administrator Schmidt. And next, we are going to hear from Judge Kathy Steele. Judge? Oh, you're on mute, Judge.
Still not automatic, Dylan. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kathy Steele, and I'm so excited to be here today participating in our Industry Day presentations. Chair Smith, Gary Schmidt, Gary Barth, and I are very happy to see you and be able to share with you our visions for the future. As the presiding judge of Clackamas County, it means that even though I was born, raised, live, and work in Clackamas County, I am working on this project as an employee of the State of Oregon Judicial Department. As such, I've been working for several years with both the county and the state to make this endeavor happen. I will also be the go-between for the successful applicants, the judges, and all the state employees who work in the building and are looking forward to having a new, safe, up-to-date, secure, and efficient workplace for themselves and for the public and the citizens of Clackamas County. So why are we here? Our current courthouse was built in 1936 when there were just 50,000 residents in Clackamas County. The courthouse was designed for one courtroom. The rest of the courthouse was for all the other county offices, all located in our current building as well. Today, there are almost 428,000 citizens in Clackamas County, and we have carved out and retrofitted 11 suboptimal courtrooms in this building. Additionally, based on our population, our current needs are for 14 judges, but we simply have no more room for expansion. The plain truth is that our current building is obsolete and unsafe. We are less than 36 inches from a 100-foot drop-off into the Willamette River. A good shake or Cascadia, what we call a Cascadia sub-event, would send us all into the river. If it's during a weekday when that occurs, there will be approximately 140 people working here, not to include the members of the public who will be inside the building as well. According to several studies, there is no confirmed attachment to bedrock, just the soil underneath that will liquefy and slide away. And in the last several years, we have lost parking spaces to erosion between the courthouse and the river embankment. The inside of the building itself is poorly designed, without separate traffic corridors or circulation paths between courthouse users, victims, litigants, and employees. That means that there are no secure paths between potentially violent offenders and their alleged victims, including their families, in the hallways. And in our courtrooms, the parties, attorneys, and jurors are often within reach of each other. We face many other space challenges in the building simply because it is so old that it cannot be retrofitted to operate to modern standards. Support columns block courtroom views. ADA compliance is minimal, and at least one courtroom, it is not available at all. Our jurors have no sequestration room on site, leaving them exposed to potentially improper communications and traveling into the building in inclement weather. We hand out lots of umbrellas. Equipment, wiring, and plumbing on the current courthouse are unreliable and far past their useful life. It is not uncommon to see electrical wires run across the courtroom floors, holes in walls, failing plumbing, ceiling drips, or floods. And this leads to many unnecessary overtime hours spent trying to keep the system humming and running to run a moderately acceptable degree. All of these problems and issues with our current building have meant delayed justice for litigants that I have to deal with. And it's scary, disheartening, and challenging for those who work here every day. We need your help. You will hear today what has been occurring to design a new courthouse that meets the needs of this century and into the future. Many people at the Oregon Department of Justice and in this courthouse have provided information and feedback to ideas presented on our future needs, planning for our spaces, and innovations. We are looking forward to throwing in a few more cents worth as well in the future. Clackamas County started talking about a new courthouse in the 1960s. Many people have doubted it would ever actually happen. You can see how ecstatic we all are that a new courthouse is now in sight. And I hope that our enthusiasm also extends to all our potential applicants. We can't wait. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Judge. And now we're going to have Project Manager Gary Barth walk us through many of the project's details. Gary? Oh, you're on mute, Gary.
How many times have I done that? Good morning, everybody. Many of you, I've scanned the list. I know many of you I've had conversations with repeatedly over the last several years. I know you're as anxious as we all are that this project has reached this phase, and thank you so much for your attendance. As you can see from our speakers this morning, there is tremendous support and enthusiasm among our leadership to make this project happen and to make it happen on a successful basis. Time is of the essence, and we are thrilled to be at this stage of the project after multiple decades of planning and intent. Dylan, if you want to bring up the PowerPoint, I'll just walk folks through. I'll give you a quick overview of the project, highlighting some of the points that were made earlier with the P3 approach. This is a unique approach for Clackamas County and unique for the state of Oregon, but we're thrilled. And we pursued the P3 approach after doing our due diligence and looking at a number of delivery approaches. We studied 5 different alternative delivery approaches, 2 P3 models and 3 all public models, and with the value for money analysis, and we centered on the P3 availability approach model going forward, which the board has approved. It's highly modeled after Howard County, Maryland. Howard County, Maryland did a very similar DB, a lowercase FOM, design, build, partially finance, operate, and maintain. We're also in a partially finance hybrid situation as the state of Oregon, through the Oregon Courthouse Capital Construction and Improvement Fund legislation, is funding up to half of the authorized capital costs of our new courthouse project. So with the P3, we anticipate that we will partner with a firm that will provide the financing to design, complete the design and construct the facility. And we will then use our state proceeds as a milestone payment at building completion, at which point we will begin making our 30-year availability payment schedule to repay the remainder portion of the debt, provide for capital reserves for repair, replace, refurbish of capital assets, as well as an operating and maintenance fund. As County Administrator Schmidt mentioned, the building will be retained in county ownership the entire time. We anticipate that the P3 partner will use the project agreement and our availability payment promise as the collateral for the building with no secured interest. This is critical as the county must retain ownership and provide the state with operating control in order to qualify for the state bonds. I don't think that's a surprise for any of our participants here this morning that will be a requirement of the project. Next slide, Dylan. The project has been schematically or programmed 3 different occasions. We've used a local architectural firm as part of our process to submit the application for the OCCCIF program. We did a secondary space analysis with the National Center for State Courts, and we have now completed a 3rd more in-depth analysis with one of our consulting partner teams, WT, who is providing our technical consulting expertise. With that, we've identified the need for 16 courtrooms. We have 11 today. We could occupy 14 based on caseloads. The 11 we have today are all substandard. And we're 3 short of today's needs, and 16 will provide us room for growth on a 40 to 50-year horizon. That translates into roughly 260,000 square feet, 224,000 of court-related space, 30,000 square feet for the district attorney's space. That is the state is not funding the district attorney's portion of the space. But that is our county decision that we want to co-locate the DA into the new facility. And the county will be responsible for 100% of that cost. As mentioned, by having space for state co-location agencies, we were able to increase the contribution from 25 to 50%. So we set aside 6,000 square feet for the Department of Human Services to have an in-courtroom, in-courthouse workspace to meet with clients during the day and act as a satellite office, as well as space for the Oregon Public Defender's Office. We will have some vehicular circulation facilities. We commonly refer to those as the Loop Road. This will be dictated by the City of Oregon City. They're the jurisdiction for land use planning and permitting. And so we'll be working with them and our project team to identify the traffic circulation patterns required to serve the new courthouse facility. And we know the new courthouse is going to increase the demand for parking. We have parking today that will be displaced because of the footprint of the new courthouse. New space will be added back and additional space will be needed. And we've identified a location for that additional space, which will all be part of the project plan. Next slide. As mentioned, the project has been master planned to be located on the Red Soils campus. The Red Soils master plan, the Red Soils campus is 57 acres. The master plan effort began in 1998 with the county's desire to consolidate a number of county services and functions onto county-owned land in the Red Soils area of Hilltop, Oregon City. The original master plan was adopted in 2000. It's been revised on several occasions. It's a living document. The City of Oregon City has adopted it and uses it for guidance with our building applications, but we also modify it as we move along. It's a guiding document to allow us to optimize the space on campus for all the current and future needs. It currently includes our public services building, which is where the county administrator and the Board of County Commissioners and a number of internal services function. It has an elliptical courtyard, and across the courtyard, as you see Dylan moving the cursor there, across the courtyard is the development services building that was built after the PSB. Those are the two newest buildings on campus. The development services building currently houses the Department of Transportation and Development, Water Environment Services, Business and Community Services, the tax assessor, and some other support functions. The courthouse site is to the southwest of the ellipse. It is framed. If you look due east from the front entrance there, you frame exactly onto Mount Hood. It's the view corridor that runs down Beaver Creek Road. And the courthouse is kind of the anchor of that, that quad there around the eclipse. It's a large scale site. This building is 2 to 2.5 times larger than either PSB or DSB. And I want to take this moment to kind of say that we've been very diligent in defining our needs for a new courthouse, but not designing it. We understand that one of the strongest values of a P3 process is the competitive nature of the procurement and unleashing the private sector's design and innovation skills to bring creative solutions to meet our defined needs. So we've identified the footprint on campus where the courthouse is to be located, but we have not prescribed precisely what that new building footprint will be. That will come as part of the design competition. You'll see that we've got some parking that will be, well, with this, I think I want to show you now with COVID, we're doing this virtual. We would love to have had you all in attendance and done a physical walk around of the site in person. But in lieu of that, and that will happen soon, I think, down the road. But in lieu of that, we've got a video that we will run now, and I'll kind of talk over a little bit and describe the site in the context of its surroundings. So as you see, it's surrounded by residential areas on the back side of the campus and commercial mixed use on the front side of campus. The main arterial there running is Beaver Creek Road. That is a view of the Public Services Building. And you're starting now to see the site of the new courthouse, which will span basically the distance between the outer edge of the Public Service Building to the outer edge of the Development Services Building. And then the front door will be right there towards the quad, the open space area between the two buildings. And then that'll be the front entrance to the courthouse. And then on the back side will be the secured entrance for the judges' secured parking, Sally Port, transfer of in custody folks for trial, etc. We have two buildings that are currently occupying on site of the existing courthouse. Those buildings will be, the functions will be relocated. There's one that's being highlighted right now. That's our Stewart Behavioral Health Center. And then across the parking lot is the Hilltop Behavioral Health Center. Those two buildings and some of that parking you see there are currently in the footprint of the current courthouse. So we will be looking to create new surface parking to just offset that displacement of parking. And we will vacate and relocate the behavioral health services, have those buildings vacant and set for demolition as part of the project company's site prep. We also understand that it might be possible to use the Stewart building as a construction site, construction headquarters. We'll vacate it and make it available to the project company if desired. And then it could be demolished towards the end of the project where the parking is to go. So that's something to keep in consideration as a potential option, is either demoing both buildings at one time as part of the site prep or retaining one building as a construction office. So that gives you a little bit of context. Full build out of the campus will include a new adult detention facility, will include new juvenile services. There's plans for a couple of more office buildings on the campus. The courthouse became the next highest priority project because of the state funding opportunity. So the board made the decision to prioritize this project, take advantage of that state funding, and accelerate this development. Next slide. So as we've discussed significantly, it's a P3 availability payment. So we just launched the RFQ. Thank you all for your interest. We'll be using the RFQ process to receive all the statements of qualifications, and working with our consultants and evaluation team, we will reduce that the number to the top 3 that we would like to move forward with through the RFP process. The request for proposals will be an extensive multi-month effort. We know many of you that participate in this are very familiar with this process. And through that effort, we anticipate receiving a number of innovative design solutions. We'll be looking at who can achieve our affordability targets, meet our defined requirements, both county and the state's defined requirements in our technical documents. We anticipate the design, construction, and partial financing operations would begin after the execution of a project agreement with the preferred proposer. That's targeted for mid-2022, with the RFP targeted for going out sometime in the fall after this RFQ process. As mentioned, we're following a procurement process and a project agreement that closely follows the Howard County and Miami-Dade County courthouses. So if you like, you can look at those projects and also get a sense for where we're going. The value for money, it was really critical to the board to look at the life cycle of this project, particularly in terms of energy efficiencies, incorporation of mass timber and other attributes that are best evaluated over the whole life cycle of a building and not just through the initial capital construction phase. So we're looking for performance incentives, expedited delivery, and predictable long-term operation and maintenance costs. As discussed, oftentimes public capital projects, they get the capital funding to build the project, and then the maintenance and long-term care of the building is often part of an annual budget exercise, often resulting in underfunding of the project. The board was clear that they wanted this building to be well maintained over the life, and they were comfortable committing to a contractual arrangement through the availability payment method to ensure that this building, jointly funded by the state, would stand the test of time and would be returned to the county at the end of the 30-year availability payment schedule in like new condition with no deferred maintenance. Next slide. So we're currently, we've brought on Rebel to be our transaction and financial advisor. WT, as mentioned earlier, is our technical A&E advisor. And Hawkins, Delafield and Wood, New York office, is our legal advisor. Hawkins and Rebel work together on Miami-Dade and Howard County. The partnership with those two and WT has been very strong. We brought all three on board last fall. They have walked us through the entire P3 procurement preparation effort that led to the board's approval in May and the state funding approval in June. They will now be retained to carry us through the procurement effort. We've launched the RFQ. We're well along in the drafting of the request for proposals, a project term sheet, as well as a draft project agreement that will accompany the RFP. We're also working with our county council, with Hawkins, is working with the state of Oregon to now formalize our funding agreement with the recent authorization by the state for their share of the funding, and working through the mechanics of when that state funding would be contributed to the project. We're looking for the private partner responsible for all the pre-construction, the construction, partial financing, as we said, full financing, but with a takeout of half with the state milestone payment at project completion. Another large benefit to the county and the state is that neither one of us contributes any funding to the project until it has been commissioned and certified that it was built to our required standards and ready for occupancy. That gives the board plenty of time to prepare future budgets in anticipation of that availability payment beginning in the 2025 horizon. Life cycle maintenance, as mentioned, we anticipate the availability payment will have a capital reserve to take care of the assets on a life cycle maintenance schedule, and that facility management services will include the janitorial and the maintenance to keep the facility in strong operating condition. It does not include, even though we've referred to DBFOM, operations of the building will be under the purview of the Oregon Judicial Department, provided by the county in a master lease agreement with the state. That again is a requirement that allows us to receive the state funding for a county-owned building. So the operations will be a minor component of the project company. The main thing will be make sure the building is available, open, operating at all times the Oregon Judicial Department needs it to conduct courthouse business. And then public communications and outreach. We have a very strong public and governmental affairs group at the county that will be a willing participant, working with the chosen project company to keep our public informed and engaged throughout the process. Next slide, Dylan. So I think Chair Smith, Judge Steele, Administrator Schmidt all outlined this county. The county has worked to replace the current courthouse since the 60s. It really stepped up again in 2000 with the adoption of the Red Soils Master Plan and identifying the site. Once the state approved the OCCCIF, providing counties with significant and much needed funding to help with this courthouse requirement, we jumped on board, and we are the third courthouse to proceed under this program. The first was a small courthouse in Jefferson County in Central Oregon. The second was the largest courthouse in Oregon in Multnomah County, which opened in 2020. And we are now the third priority project for the state, and the first using a P3 model. So we hope to demonstrate that the P3 approach is a very solid approach and may serve as a model for other counties following behind us. The state OJD has been very supportive, working with us on learning more about and discovering the benefits of the P3 approach. In July of 2020, the board supported the P3 delivery, which is when we formed the consultant team that comprised our technical advisory team that provided all of the procurement packaging for board consideration in May of 2021. The board received all of that information, authorized and adopted a resolution at a business meeting that allows us to move forward with the P3 procurement effort. In June, then we were waiting for the legislative approval, which came in June. And that was our green light then to begin the process with the issuance of the request for qualifications on OregonBuys.gov on July 1st. And this is our second event now as the Industry Day to kind of kick this thing off in a public fashion. Next slide. So as I've said, we've defined the building. We have not designed it. In that defining of the building, we've done multiple cost studies. JMB Consulting out of Seattle did initial cost estimates for us. National Center for State Courts did some validation of the cost estimates. WT provided the latest cost estimates based on the technical requirements that the WT team, working with all of our building occupants and the Oregon Judicial Department facilities requirements. We have defined the space needs. We've defined room data sheets. We've defined a furniture fixture and equipment register of all the movable FF&E. And we're in the process now of refining some of the cost estimates for that FF&E. Total project cost, ballpark, $210 million. That includes the courthouse, the district attorney space, the loop road, and the required parking to meet the demands of the campus. We have set a milestone payment at occupational readiness of $85 million so that all of the proposers are going to have common sets of financial information to work from as they prepare their availability payment schedules for consideration. The availability payments estimated at $12 million a year. This was, again, Rebels has been contracted and is leading our effort with our finance team and a finance subcommittee of our technical advisory team to develop the availability schedule. What we were working for was to determine an affordability ceiling. And for many of you involved in the P3, this is not a new concept for you. We're setting an affordability ceiling that the project must come under to be considered. Of course, most value will be given to those that can best come under that affordability ceiling. That is a ceiling. It is not a floor. So That was established by taking our cost estimates, forecasting it out 30 years, discounting it back to a net present value using a 5% discount rate as of January 1, 2022. And we will be providing a robust financial model, Rebel, that we will use for all the proposals. We will get inputs from the proposers. We will run those through our model, so we're getting common analysis. And we'll have much more to discuss about that during the RFP process. But Chair Smith was adamant. The board is incredibly supportive of this project. They want it to be a signature project that stands the test of time and meets the judicial needs for decades to come, but at a value level, at an affordability level, because the county has many other requirements, and we're not raising any new taxes to pay for this building. So it's requiring the board to be very strategic in the allocation of existing and forecasted resources. So strong emphasis will be placed on the affordability targets. Dylan? So we have an ambitious yet realistic timeline. Our consultants assure me. We've issued the RFQ. We expect statement of qualifications. We know many of you have been tracking this project for a significant amount of time and have been waiting for this time when you could submit your qualifications. So we've got an aggressive timeline for that submission. And then as again, we want to narrow it down to the top 3 respondents to receive requests for proposals in September. We anticipate up to 4 rounds of individual meetings with those 3 proposers, with interim submittals on the technical and on the financial occurring throughout that process. Final full responses we're anticipating will be in the spring of 2022. Selection of our preferred bidder by the June, at the end of our 21-22 fiscal year. Moving into commercial and financial close of the project agreement and the funding in the 3rd quarter of 2022, when final design and pre-construction will begin, and targeting occupancy readiness by mid-2025. So about a 30-month construction schedule, design and construction schedule from commercial and financial close. So it's ambitious, and we will let the market respond, and we will respond accordingly. So I think that concludes the overview. Our procurement manager is Ryan Rice. I've spoken with many of you over the course, but now that the RFQ has gone public, I will be going dark. All official communications from any interested parties now need to run through Mr. Rice, our Clackamas County procurement director, and we will ensure that all your inquiries are vetted and responses provided to all interested parties. So with that, I think we are prepared. We're going to be bringing on representatives from our consulting team. They don't have a presentation, but they're available to help me respond to any questions that any of the attendees may have. And a caution to you all is some questions may be taken, asked to be submitted in writing, and a formal response provided. But I'm happy to hear what's on everybody's mind this morning after this presentation.
Gary, I'm going to bring in those the consultants at your queue when we need them. So
okay,
very good. Okay, well, thank you all for that. I know that some of our panelists might need to step out and go, so if that's possible, great. Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate the time. And now, as Gary indicated, now is the time that interested parties or attendees can pose any questions. If you have a question, you can go ahead and hit your raise hand button now on the Zoom bar, and that's at the top or bottom, depending on your device. If you are on the phone, We do have some people on the phone. If you're on the phone, you can also hit *9, and that lets me know that you have a comment, and you need to just please identify yourself and which firm you are from. We don't have a lot of hands, so I don't think we need to implement a time limit here. First one is going to be from Shannon Horton. Shannon, you are on. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself and just please identify yourself. I haven't seen you unmuted yet. If a link was shared, there we go. Just go ahead and identify yourself and who you're with and go ahead and pose your question. Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
It's Jensen Clark at Fengate. But hey guys, hey Gary. 2 questions. First one is when we were speaking about the maintenance scope, you referenced IT services. I was just wondering if you could speak a bit about what you were thinking there. And then second was if you could talk a bit about why the RFQ submission was so fast. It's only about a month.
On the first question, we have we have 2 IT systems that will be functioning in the courthouse. We'll have a county system that will serve our district attorney and our sheriff's civil functions. And then the state OJD will be providing IT services for the judicial department. And we anticipate that we will manage the majority of the IT requirements outside the walls. The requirements of the project company will be predominantly behind the wall infrastructure to enable the technical requirements of our IT staff for both the county and the state. But we don't anticipate the project company being actively involved in ongoing IT services.
Great, thank you.
The second question was, we're just working with our consultants, their recommended timeline. We'll be looking to hear back from potential proposers on our timelines, and we'll respond accordingly.
Great, thanks, Gary.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Let me move you back over. Okay. And the only other hand we have raised, the handle is Hector. Oh, we have another one that's just come up. That's fine. Hector Aguilar, maybe. My apologies if I mispronounce it, but if you want to go ahead and there you go. Just identify who you are and who you're with.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this is regarding the attachment A, section 123 is, it says courthouse projects including DBF, OM, or other alternative delivery structure. Does experience courthouses projects outside the US accounts? We are in an international firm outside the US, so we want to see if, as that's not that clear in the information.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I totally got the context of the question. Could you rephrase that, please?
Yeah. It's if the experience outside the US accounts. We have many projects in Latin America.
I see. Yeah, I think we will obviously put an emphasis on US judicial experience. We're looking for folks who are experienced in designing these kinds of facilities. But certainly we know there's going to be a lot of international interest. We anticipate teams may be partnering up to ensure that they have the relative skill levels to address our unique needs here in Clackamas County.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Hector. Oh, I think Gary Schmidt is leaving. Thank you very much, Gary. Okay. Next, we are going to go to the handle is Daniel Bunn. Daniel Bunn. There we go. If you could identify yourself and who you're with, and you can go ahead and pose your question.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Daniel Bunn with Rubicon Investments. First of all, very well put together solicitation. That's always nice to see. The only question that came up as I read this and listened to your presentation was, how did you arrive at the termination payment target for default? It says in the draft term sheet that if you terminate for default, the payment will be 80% of debt. That's fine on the developer's side, but that's going to limit the amount of debt we can get, which is really cheap given your credit rating. So if you're trying to minimize costs, I was just curious what you were trying to get at there. I assume you're trying to incentivize performance, but would you be open to other incentives that would allow more debt? Because I think my gut would tell me that's going to lower your overall project costs. But it's a public policy question. I was just curious what your thinking was.
Yeah, Daniel, I won't speak on behalf of our consultants. We had a very strong consulting team advising us on the term sheet. But I would say that we'll be taking all of the market feedback from the private sector. And if you want to submit a recommendation along those lines, we can take it under consideration and evaluate
And
it.
you dig into that during the RFP process, I presume,
Yes.
if respondents have different proposals that we can model out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for that, Daniel. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Yuri Naumov. That's what I'm going to say it, but my apologies again. Yuri, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself, identify who you are and who you're with, and you're on.
Hi, Dylan. Very good. Do you hear me?
Yes.
This is Yuri. You said it well. I'm with CPA with WIG. One question regarding reaching out for an RFI. Is Ryan Rice the contact in the document? I suppose so, because I sent one, but we never received an answer. So I just want to confirm if we have sent an email to Ryan Rice, that counts towards an RFI.
Yes, Yuri, good to hear from you again. Glad to see you're participating. Yes, Ryan Rice is the contact. Feel free to copy me on communications to Ryan, but he is your point of contact for any information on this.
Okay. Our first main concern has been, and I believe Jansen has raised that issue, is the timing of the submission. It's very challenging.
Yes, and Ryan shared that with the project team.
Well, I just advanced that we asked through the channel extension of time. Hopefully you could consider that.
Thank you, Yuri.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Yuri. Appreciate it. Next up is Jay Farbstein or Farbstein. If you can go ahead and identify yourself and who you're with and unmute yourself first. There we go. Go right ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Good morning. My name is Jay Farbstein. I'm a court planning consultant, not yet affiliated with a team. But I had a question. There was mention made of 3 programs. The second being the National Center for State Courts, which is available on the web page. You mentioned a third one, more in depth, by your WT advisor team. Is that available, or is it going to be made available to the proponents?
It will be made available to the proponents during the RFP process. It will have an entire technical specifications section that WT is developing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Jay. Appreciate that. Next, we will go to the handle is Mark Jennings. Mark Jennings, if you can unmute yourself, there you go. Go ahead and introduce yourself and who you're with and pose your question. Thanks.
Thanks, Dylan. Hi, my name is Mark Jennings. I'm with Balfour Beatty. Gary, good to speak to you again. Just a quick question. Excellent presentation, very exciting project. I note when going through the evaluation criteria, I think it's facilities management is worth sort of a 20% weighting, there or thereabouts. And yet the thing I noticed is going through is that there's a 20-page limit for facilities management and sort of 10 pages for other sections. Now, whilst this doesn't affect me directly, as one of our team will be drafting that, I was curious as to whether that sort of betrayed a certain focus from you on FM over other things. I wonder if you might be able to elaborate on that, or whether that's not a conscious decision as such.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think you can read too much into the page limit versus the evaluation criteria. I would rely on the evaluation criteria scoring for the emphasis of importance.
Okay. Okay, that's great.
If you find page limits, if anybody listening finds any page limitations on any sections limiting, feel free to provide that input to us for consideration. But hopefully that will not be too onerous of a task.
Great. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Jennings. And I still see we have one hand up. The last hand is Claudio Andrietta. Claudio, if you can go ahead, there we go. Just identify who you are and who you're with, and go ahead and pose your question.
Hi, Gary. It's Claudio Andrada with Johnson Controls. Looks like you are requiring that the teams tie into an existing central utility plant that might be feeding this campus. And my question is really around, with the concerns that the county has for, having no deferred maintenance and for the whole of life cost aspect of the project, why you wouldn't consider having a dedicated central utility plant so that the courthouse could be fully functioning and stand alone in that capacity. Right now, we're going to be relying on really an outside central plant for those services, which are pretty key for the environmental control of the building.
Yeah, a very strong observation, Claudio. We've had numerous conversations around that exact topic. Yes, the central utility plant for the Red Soils campus was designed and scaled to serve the entire build out full campus, and it has been stubbed to the courthouse site. So our operating assumption right now is that the building will tie in, but we also realize that we're almost in essence a utility provider that's running services to a meter, and that we can only hold the project company responsible for what they control beyond that meter, not what comes to that meter. So we'll be very mindful of that in the discussions. And we are looking at that in terms of our county's climate action plan, our path to carbon neutrality by 2050, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, the working assumption is that all the buildings on campus will tie into the central utility plant to achieve those economies of scale that were designed in the system.
Okay. Claudio, is that the end of your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay.
I anticipate this will be further discussed with our three proponents as we get through deeper into the RFP process. But we want everybody working from the same assumption that assumption today is you will tie into the central utility plant.
You know it, Gary.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you again for that, Claudio. Let me move you back over. Okay. That's all the hands I see. Last chance. If anybody has a question, please raise your hand now. If you're on the phone, hit *9. All right, seeing none. Well, on behalf of Clackamas County Chair Tootie Smith, thank you for joining us, along with Clackamas County Administrator Gary Schmidt, Presiding Judge Kathy Steele, and Project Manager Gary Barth. We really appreciate you joining us today. My thanks to all of our panelists. I'm just going to share my screen one last time, even though it's been said several times. You can contact Ryan Rice, rrice@clackamas.us with any further questions that you have. And that's pretty much it. So from all of us at Clackamas County, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you, Gary.